What I Am. Written by Night Breeze. Read by no one and nobody.
Chapter 9. Hey, how about we get something to eat? I asked as my stomach started to growl. I mean, we've been out here for a while, and while most of my species can go without food for a long time, we don't really prefer it that way. Rainbow was still bone-tired, though that was probably to be expected. We had gone a ridiculous distance, even for human standards. Not that a normal human couldn't have gone that far, just that they probably couldn't have made it in a little under 3 hours. That being said, she was still flat on her stomach, her tongue hanging out, with a tumbler of water cradled in her hooves. She perked up immediately, though, when I mentioned getting some food.
I'm in for food, too! Yes!
Evening looked longingly at her list, then, with a sigh, put it back into her bags.
Yes, Bing.
Both Rainbow and I cheered at those words.
But only because being late for language lessons,
she said, waving a hoof at me.
As soon eating is done, back to learn.
Now, if you've never had a 4-foot-tall pony wave her hoof at you while looking stern, I highly recommend it. Something about a disapproving motherly look, coupled with a pony face, just looks flat-out hilarious. I know she was trying to impress upon me the seriousness of what she was saying, but it took all my willpower not to burst out laughing at her. I put my hand over my mouth in an effort to hide my grin, but I think she might have noticed. Oh, okay, I gotcha. She gave me a hard look at that, but didn't pursue the issue. With another long-suffering sigh, she waved us all back towards the castle door, where food and rest were waiting. My guards followed us back in, though I couldn't help but notice a slight wariness about them. My little demonstration really must have freaked them out. Come on, guys, I'm not going to bite. They looked at me funny, and Rainbow, who was hovering next to me, gave a disapproving snort.
Ignoring is them. They just surprised our Bing.
I gave them one last look, then shrugged my shoulders. Okay, whatever you say. As we meandered through the halls, I noticed that I was starting to understand the layout of this place. At least, the layout of the small corner I was allowed to inhabit. Good skill to have, in case this place was ever attacked, or I needed to leave in a hurry. We reached my room pretty quickly, and I wasn't surprised in the least to find Scroll already waiting there for us. He had a very put-upon expression, but immediately brightened up when he saw us enter the room. He said something to the others, and I managed to pick out the words work and waiting, but nothing else.
We get food first, then start lesson. Yes, is Bing?
Evening asked him. I heard a few more words, one that sounded like later, but the rest was way too fast for me to understand. Evening nodded and turned to me, her smile a little apologetic.
Food is already on way. Why not get started while wait?
I thought about this for a second, then sat down on the edge of my bed. Well, I don't see why not. Rainbow didn't seem to like the idea much, but that was okay. She wasn't the one who needed to learn a new language, after all. That privilege was reserved solely for me. Well, let's get started then, I said, clapping my hands together as I plopped down on the bed. This was shaping up to be a long day, but that really didn't matter to me. At this point, I was just happy to be safe and alive. When sneaking through a hostile enemy fortress, there are several ways to avoid being seen. One can kill or incapacitate any who see them, stick to the shadows, create a distraction, or pretend as if one belonged in the first place. For a changeling, the fourth option was as natural as breathing. While the other 3 options had their benefits, pretending that you belonged in the first place carried the least amount of risk and had the highest chance of success, in Skitter's humble opinion. This was why she was currently disguised as one of the castle's waitstaff, on her way up to the restricted wing with a platter of food that was somewhat suspect for the pony palate.
Hey, honeydew, we still on for tonight?
A fairly burly Solar Guard Pegasus asked, his smile a bit dopey.
You know it,
Skitter said in her stolen form's best confident voice. Inwardly, however, she was berating herself for being so careless.
Of course your cult friend is in the Royal Guard. Why would I think this would be easy?
Usually, this would have been a perfect opportunity to feed. The love coming off the stallion was overwhelming and would have easily kept her hive running for a month, if not several. However, Skitter was not on a collection run. The guard's familiarity with Skitter's current form meant that her time was limited. Eventually, she would make a mistake. And because of Queen Chrysalis's failed attempt to take Canterlot, they would immediately jump to the conclusion that she was a changeling. The Mad Queen had done so much to harm all the hives that even collecting wasn't a simple process anymore. The Pegasus's partner, a Night Sentinel Earth pony, moved forward and hooked the trolley's other handle with his hoof.
I'll take that off your hooves.
He pushed the trolley to a waiting private, who started wheeling it down the hall and towards its eventual destination. Skitter gave the assembled guards a winning smile as she turned to leave.
Well, I'd better get going. Lots of work. Oh!
She rubbed her nose a little and looked up at the person that had managed to sneak up on her. He was a rather large unicorn stallion, dressed like a solar guard and bearing a sergeant's plume. The unicorn had a mild grin on his face that seemed to want to communicate friendliness and familiarity, but the emotions coming off of him were nothing but pure malice. She gave him a nervous smile, then moved out of the way of the guard, all while bowing her head.
I'm sorry about that, sir.
The stallion's smile became even wider, almost as if he thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
Hey, don't worry about it. Every pony makes mistakes.
The stallion's voice was just a little too chipper for the amount of killing intent coming off of him, which only made Skitter more nervous.
You should head back to the kitchen. I bet they're positively a wreck without you.
Thank you, sir,
Skitter said, as she quickly bowed a couple more times before finally ducking around a corner. Once she was out of sight of the guards, she did a quick jog through the corridor until she found a suitable place to think. It was a closet, but when someone is freaking out in a place they aren't supposed to be in, they usually have very little in the way of options.
Okay, I found him. What do we do now?
She wondered aloud as she tried to get her heartbeat under control. It took a lot longer than she would have cared to admit. Once she was calm, she took a few deep, cleansing breaths and tried to think her way through this dilemma. Her options were limited, with each worse than the one before it.
I could try and take another form to follow him, but that would raise suspicions if a guard didn't report in. I could report back to the Queen, but it would take days to get back. The beacon magic only works one way, and I don't have time to set up another one. I could. No, that'd expose my whole hive, and we'd be destroyed in a day.
She must have spent a good 30 minutes wrestling with herself before she finally sighed and let her head thump into the wall in front of her.
There just isn't a simple solution to this, is there? I either reveal my hive, or the Promethean dies.
With a deep, steadying breath, she turned back to the door and turned the handle. So far, the best course of action would be to go back to her post and keep her ear to the ground, in hopes that something would turn up. Hopefully, that something would turn up before everything went to Tartarus. Rainbow was bored. This wasn't any ordinary kind of boredom either. This was a boredom with a capital B. She knew how important it was for Defender to learn equestrian, but come on! This stuff wasn't just boring, it was something she had mastered when she was a filly.
At least make it interesting, you two,
she thought, as written script started going over small, simple phrases that Defender could use when there wasn't a pony who knew translation on hoof. To the wayward human's credit, he seemed to be picking everything up pretty fast, needing only to be told a word and its meaning once before memorizing it. He seemed to be struggling with pronunciation, though, particularly any of the whinny or tongue-rolling sounds. Rainbow rolled over onto her back, her legs splayed out in every direction as she waited. If food wasn't coming immediately, then now seemed like a pretty good time for a nap. Just when she started to get comfortable, though, the door opened to reveal an Earth Pony guard pushing the food cart.
At last! I thought I was going to die!
Twilight gave her a disapproving look.
Rainbow, that's for Alex. If you were that hungry, you could have gone down to the kitchens at any time.
Rainbow just shrugged, waving off Twilight's comment with a negligent roll of her hoof.
Food always tastes better if you bum it off someone else.
If anything, Twilight's scowl grew even more pronounced. Before she could say anything, though, Defender let out an amused chuckle as he pulled the cover off of his food.
Okay, you have some, but not eat fish.
Rainbow Dash made a sour face as she got up and sat down next to Defender.
You can keep that part. I just want the cornbread and jelly.
Defender gave her a brief look, looked at the food, back at her, then slid the named items towards her.
Here, eating is up.
Rainbow scooped up the food and quickly began devouring it, despite the disapproving glare she was receiving from Twilight.
Jeez, Twilight, lighten up. It's not like I'm stealing all his food. That's not the problem, Rainbow. We still don't know everything about his new body. Part of these tests were about how he metabolizes various plant and animal-based matter. This is really important, you know.
Rainbow just shrugged a little, then went back to eating.
Yeah, whatever.
Once her mouth was half full of cornbread, and Twilight was sufficiently ignored, she turned to the alien sitting next to her, a question on her mind that she'd been meaning to ask for a while now.
Say, Defender, what was it like living back on your home planet?
Defender seemed taken back by this.
Oh, well, home very different. In fact, our technology similar to you about 150 years ago. Our days similar length. Our city's big, and
Rainbow shook her head, then took a second to swallow before interrupting him.
No, big guy, I'm talking about you. What's it like growing up?
The alien smiled, then looked away.
Knowing what you mean. Just thinking home make homesickness.
Twilight immediately got a panicked look on her face, one that was marred by the look of pure joy she had been wearing just moments ago at hearing about an alien culture.
Rainbow, don't!
Defender waved her off, though, before she could build up any kind of steam.
No worry about. No shame asking. In fact, want remember home. Just hard, okay? Not easy. No, never see again.
The look in his eyes said sad, but his smile said, please don't make me stop. Eventually, Twilight's curiosity to hear about the humans' homeworld won out.
If it's not too much trouble, I'd love to hear about you too.
Defender smiled and put a hand on his chin in a thoughtful gesture.
I born in place called.
He said several words that didn't translate, as well as some that did, but all of them were mixed up together. If Rainbow were to hazard a guess, though, she would have said that he named his country first, America. His province name next, Mine. Then his city, which actually did translate, though its name came out as Land of Shipports.
My youngest three, living with older brother and sister, mom, dad, and uncle. Yous move around a lot before I born, but stop because dad get back. No need move anymore. Only need take care.
What's he saying?
Written script asked Twilight quietly.
Oh, sorry. Here.
Without another word, Twilight's horn flashed, allowing written script to understand the conversation.
We good?
Defender asked. Twilight nodded her head and gave the human a curious smile.
Yes, please continue. Tell me, why would your family stop moving when your father came back? Where was he, anyway?
Defender shrugged a little before spooning another mouthful of food into his mouth.
Dad in military. He move around a lot because military move him. Family move with, until he discharge. Uncle move in to help after that.
Rainbow Dash perked up at that.
Wait, why would your uncle need to move in to help? Wasn't your mom and your dad around? Why would they need another adult?
Defender smiled at her before spearing another slice of fried fish on his fork and scooping it into his mouth. Once he was finished with the bite, he speared another morsel on his fork before answering.
Well, dad not well, after home. Mom need take care of him and us. Her brother come help out much can. Pretty much be second father. Many time dad slap me up head with remaining hand. When not listen to uncle, may God exalt.
Written script looked like he was going to be sick.
Remaining hand? What happened to him? And why didn't your doctors use regeneration magic to heal him?
Twilight gently put a single hoof on Written Script's withers.
Alex's world doesn't have magic.
Written Script quickly turned to the young unicorn, then back to Defender, shock written on his face.
Wait, as in, not at all? How is that even possible?
Defender smiled ruefully at the gray unicorn, his eyes showing that he didn't quite believe it either.
I tell you, it is quite real. Was real shock come here and find fairy tale real. Magic is legend where come from. No one real magic. Only fake. Make believe or hand faster than eye trick.
Really? Then how do you control your sun? Your moon? What about the weather?
Script asked, completely confused.
We don't. This stuff self-control. Wild, world spin round sun, moon round planet. Gravity keep pulled together, while momentum keep apart.
Twilight already had her notebook out and was busy writing every word the alien spoke when Rainbow Dash decided to get them back on track.
Whoa! Hold it right there. We can talk all about that egghead stuff later. Right now, I want to hear more about you. I mean, we barely know anything about you, big guy.
Twilight looked down at the notepad, regret clearing her face, before putting it down again.
Yes, sorry. You're right, Rainbow. Please, Defender, what were you saying about your father's injuries?
Defender looked like he wanted to say more about his world, but shrugged and continued his story.
Well, their device is used in war to hurt people. Machines. Cause explode. Send tiny shard metal everywhere. High speed. When step on.
The 3 ponies present looked absolutely horrified at the thought of such a device.
And your father stepped on?
Rainbow tried to ask. Defender shook his head, his lips still turned up into a smile, oddly enough.
No, he no step on. Variant of device can do many things, such as put on high-speed machine he was go to drive, explode when sit down, or open door. Enemy want kill him and troop, but he heard it active before go off. Warn friends, stay away. They send an explosion disarm, but it go off before they arrive.
Twilight looked confused at this.
If he heard it, then why did he...
He stay, because afraid if move, set off explosion immediate. Give explosive disarm chance to work. If go off first,
Defender said, his voice and expression still oddly chipper for someone who was talking about how their father almost died.
He armor save him, but still lose arm, leg immediate. Other leg Mango had remove in hospital, but save him life.
How can you be so upbeat about this?
Written script asked, his voice filled with 2 parts horror and 1 part nausea.
Your father almost died. He was basically turned into a cripple for life, and you sound almost proud that this happened to him.
Defender gave him a cheeky grin, then winked at him, and Rainbow realized a little too late that none of the emotions the human had been putting out had been bravado. He genuinely was proud of his father's actions.
But...
Rainbow couldn't quite wrap her head around it. It wasn't the pride that she had difficulty with, but the utter lack of sorrow or pain. It was a completely alien concept to her. Defender noticed her confusion and put a hand on her head, which she quickly batted away in annoyance. He chuckled at that.
Yes, he me hero. Of course I proud him. He stared death in face, and first thought is get him people safe. Almost die in hospital. Say that only thing keep going, keep alive, was thought of children left behind. Child on way, and mother he leave raise both. Refuse leave mother alone. Refuse leave family behind. Still have father, even if broken father.
The ponies fell silent, as did Defender, who chose to take this opportunity to focus on his food. Before he was halfway done, the door creaked open to reveal a tall unicorn solar guard that Rainbow was unfamiliar with. Rainbow's eyes caught the quickest glimpse he made towards Defender, but that was his only break from the otherwise legendary taciturn mannerisms of the equestrian guard.
Can I help you?
Twilight asked politely. The guard didn't answer at first. Instead, he approached Twilight. As his horn began to glow, and without any sort of fanfare, he pulled out a rolled-up scroll from under his armor.
Ma'am, one of your old teachers asked me to deliver this to you. He said it was urgent.
Twilight looked confused and moderately worried.
Old teacher? Who was it?
She asked, as she unfurled the letter. Before Rainbow could make a snarky comment, though, there was a sudden blinding flash of light emanating from the letter, a loud ear-shattering bark, and a pain that seemed to attack her from every single one of her nerve endings. As suddenly as it had begun, it was over. Her muscles seemed to have locked up, and she was having trouble even caring. She barely managed to work up enough energy to look up, only to see a funny black and teal bug-like creature where the guard used to be. The creature looked familiar, but at the moment, she was unable to figure out where she had seen something like this before.
Funny. Guard ponies aren't supposed to look like that,
she thought, right before darkness took her. Celestia sighed with relief as she sat down in her waiting room. While she knew it was necessary, she still hated talking with the press. They always assumed the worst, and were so very easy to panic. Tell them that you're changing a long-standing tax law, and they assumed that the Griffin Empire was about to invade. They had just about had a conniption when she had told them that aliens had landed in Canterlot.
Princess Celestia, is it true that aliens are planning on turning us all into lunch meat?
Princess Celestia, does the alien menace have anything to do with the meteor strike that occurred on Whitetail Peak about 7 months ago?
Princess Celestia, what is the connection to this and to the White Yeti that was rumored to inhabit Whitetail Woods? Princess Celestia, what are the rumors of you seeing a dashing Earth pony stallion? Have you abandoned your alleged lover due to the increased stress the alien incursion has put upon you?
Celestia groaned in frustration, ignited her horn, and summoned her favorite tea set from the kitchen downstairs. Her staff had apparently anticipated her needs, again, seeing as how it contained a few choice goodies that she normally did not allow herself.
I really need to stop being so predictable,
she thought as she examined the tray before her. It had been stocked with not only an especially strong brew of her favorite tea, but also with a large selection of chocolates, fudge, and cookies. Celestia gently levitated a piece of fudge to her lips and bit down. The sugary chocolate flooded her taste buds, calming her nerves and temporarily making her forget about the stress from earlier. As if this was somehow a signal to the rest of the universe to spoil the moment, the door to her waiting room rang out with 3 solid knocks.
It just cannot last,
Celestia muttered to herself. What she said loud enough for the visitor to hear, however, was,
"Come in."
The door creaked open, allowing a more pleasant surprise than she was expecting to enter.
Did you survive your meeting with the media, my sister?
Princess Luna asked as she peeked her head around the door.
Oh, thank the spirits of harmony it's just you. Please come in and sit down,
Celestia said, motioning towards the couch that was on the other side of her coffee table.
I apologize for not coming when I received your earlier letter, but I had a somewhat interesting conversation with Alex. I think I've made some real progress with him, and needed some time to meditate on what I'd learned,
Luna said a little evasively.
What did you want to talk about, though? Your letter made it sound important. Ah, yes. I need you to look at something, and tell me what you think,
Celestia said, as she levitated a piece of paper from a nearby desk. Luna took the paper with interest and scanned a critical eye over what was written there. However, one look was all she needed to recognize what she was looking at.
It is a transcript from that book that Starswirl always carried with him. Still as unreadable as it has ever been, since that paranoid old coot wouldn't even let us look at it until long after the etheric imprint he had made had faded. Yes, and Starswirl's death before he could teach us the language in his book was equally as upsetting. However, you are wrong about the script's origin.
Luna looked at the paper again, her eyes scanning every inch for details she might have missed.
You're right. Some of the more important characters he used are different, and some are missing entirely. Where did you get this? Did someone unearth another volume by that old bat?
Celestia shook her head.
No, the author of these writings is far more recent. We have him under our employ, actually.
Luna scowled at that.
Has he been detained? Those writings are supposed to be on a need-to-know basis. There are many dark spells contained in that vault, and it... Luna, the author has never seen the vault,
Celestia interrupted before Luna could pick up steam.
In fact, I doubt that the author of this work even knows that Starswirl had even existed. Oh, but who wrote this?
Luna asked, completely flabbergasted.
I thought that this tongue was an original creation, designed by Starswirl as a way of encoding his work. As did I, but that now appears to have been a lie, probably perpetuated to keep us from knowing where Starswirl got his hooves on that book. After all, knowing what we know now, it is rather apparent that he was not the original author of that book,
Celestia said as she poured herself and her sister a cup of tea. Luna was thoroughly invested now.
What makes you say that? Who wrote this?
Celestia smiled slyly before setting down her cup of tea. She then took back the transcript and looked at it before setting it back on the table.
Alex wrote this.
Luna looked up sharply, her mouth hanging open ever so slightly.
Wait, what?
Celestia's horn ignited, and a swath of papers all bearing similar markings made their appearance out from underneath the table. Along with those papers was a book that, while very familiar, was still something that Luna hadn't seen in over 1,000 years. On its unusually bound cover were written words in a blocky alien text.
Vagnamasi of Merdin. I think we have more in common with Alex than we first believed, and all the similarities between our peoples that he spotted, I think there might be an explanation,
Celestia said darkly. Before the conversation could go any further, they were interrupted as a loud official-sounding knock. Celestia rolled her eyes in disgust.
If it's not one thing, it's another. Come in.
The door opened a crack to allow the sergeant at her door to peek his head in.
Your Highness, we've just received word that the alien's vessel was spotted en route to the Canterlot air docks.
Thank you, Sergeant,
Celestia said as she got up. Her horn ignited briefly, and the things that had been on her desk were all swiftly teleported out of sight.
I'll go question,
Luna started to say, but was interrupted by her older sister.
No, Lulu. I believe I will need you when we meet with the dignitaries. At the very least, I feel I need an ally, for what I am sure will be a very awkward conversation,
Celestia said as she stood up. Luna gave her a wry smile.
Of course, sister. We can question Alex later.
With that, the two rulers left the past behind and went to meet what was sure to be the future of Equestria.